Blub, 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 blub. Welcome to the Library of Graphic Literature. And now for something quite the same. Oh, God, it's got me. Oh, what a smash up that was. Oh, what a crash up. What a smash up. Okay. Oh my God. What's this camera doing here? Oh yes, right. Once again, live on tape from a secret, undisclosed location in the bowels of historic, snowbound St. John's, Newfoundland, Canada, comes in the Library of Graphic Literature with your host, me, Wallace Ryan. So, as you know from what I've posted time and again on the site in the past few days, we out here, and you might have even seen it on the news, because there's been some great footage come from here. We were walloped with a record-breaking snowfall here. It was 2.5 feet basically in 24 hours, just over 24 hours. And then there was another foot 2 days later on top of that, just make it all work, a lot of fun. And sprinkle with a bit of rain then. But then it went back to freezing, and the place was just absolutely gone insane. My sister, her neighbors had to dig her out because the snow had covered the whole front of her house, and she couldn't get out the back because the snow was too deep. And this snow has actually brought out the real neighborliness in Newfoundlanders. People, I've seen many stories of people helping out other people. But this guy, it wasn't easy for him to shovel to her door. If you go to my personal page, you'll see, and it's right up over her windows. My neighbor across the street, his front door was almost up to the top. It filled in. So he had to dig from his door out, and that wasn't easy, believe you me. I was lucky because my face, the way it faces, is the wind tends to blow in a certain way that it drifts away from my door. So I'm one of the few lucky ones that way. But the rest of the city was absolutely blocked. As a matter of fact, this afternoon here is the first time since last Thursday that we had 2 lanes of traffic, and it's a major road in downtown St. John's too. And today's the first day they actually were able to widen it from one little lane back to its normal 2 lanes. There's still no place to park there or whatever. Doesn't matter. I don't have a car, and they opened up the grocery stores, and people went insane. The place was packed with people. The photographs are worth seeing. The lineups going all the way out to through the parking lot and then back around and all that. It was just insane. But I was lucky. On my way home Thursday night, I stopped by the grocery store and I got a few things, just enough I knew to make sure I don't starve to death during the snowstorm. And thank God, because the city shut down. They declared a state of emergency. You weren't allowed to go out in the car, the one I don't own, and all schools, all businesses were closed. There was one store I think opened up, and they fined them, right? Because they didn't want anyone on the roads, because it just makes cleaning up a lot harder. So, and even today, the schools are still off and will be off for the rest of the week. I usually teach a class that starts on this Sunday at the Anna Center. That ain't going ahead, because even by Saturday we'll still be digging out. There was a lot of snow. So anyway, and I was lucky. Actually, I was lucky. I never lost my power. Well, I did one night, but I was asleep, and when I woke up, my clock was blinking. So, and my water froze actually this afternoon, but I got into it just in time, and it took a while, but I got it going again. So it's been a hairy few days, because if I lost my power and I'd lose my heat, the pipes will burst in this house, right? This is a 170-year-old house, right? When this house was built, they didn't have electricity. Anyway, so I've been housebound, snowbound, starting to get a bit of cabin fever, and I decided, hey, when I woke up this morning, it's just like, oh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? It's just like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to do my show, and I'm going to do an episode that I'd like to call The Reading Stack. And anyway, The Reading Stack this is what I'm reading right now. First of all, a lot of things. Now I do reread some stuff and all that, and I've read most of my library. I've read most of those. I've read that 2 or 3 times. I've read every single one of those. I've read all those. I've read most of the masterworks, the Usagi's, most of the ECs I have, Conan, all the Duck stuff. And yeah, I'm actually making my way through the Aaron Creepy books now that I've finished them off. A lot of times when I finish off a set, I'll go back and I'll try to go back to wherever I am and read through and finish off the set. Like with the upcoming Dick Tracy, when the last one of those drops, I'm about 5 volumes behind in my reading, which is not bad because there's a lot of volumes in that thing. But I'll catch up. But these days, if I buy a collection and it's something that I've read before as a kid or whatever, then I'll actually just shelve it. Now, sometimes I will have a look at it, and even some nights I'll go and I'll pick out a book off the shelf and I'll just read one comic at random or whatever and put it back on. So it's kind of cool like that. Anyway, let's get down to it. Well, besides comic book reading, I do read other stuff, and that's what I like about comics. Comics to me were the gateway drugs to literature, to great literature, and beyond. I learned how to read, as I've said before on the show. I learned how to read as a child just by reading comics or picking up comics and making the link and understanding what the symbols were, that they were words, and then eventually figuring out, when you put them in these orders. And also too, I mean, as a kid you're hearing and you're talking and all that. And it's just like, oh yeah, these symbols are just a way of writing down what we're saying. And I'd ask my older brothers and all that about what certain words were. And by the time I went into kindergarten, I could read. And I read it. Well, I made it easy in school. But as I got older, I started to read novels. Day of the Jackal, I think, was one of my first favorite. And then I just wandered around just buying and reading just about anything, all the great classics, all the Sherlock Holmes stories, all the great books of literature that I could get out my hands on, Grapes of Wrath, anything and everything, and also too where I had a Christian brother upbringing. They were one thing they were good at was literature and all that, and so we used to cover a lot of really intense stuff even as kids. So what I'm reading now, this is one Neil Gaiman, Norse mythology. Love the Norse mythology and love Neil Gaiman. He has a style that makes it so easy to read. It's deceptively simple and simply deceptive. There's something about I like his stuff. I don't care what anyone else says about him. Great Expectations from Charles Dickens. I got this book, of course, at one of those at Coles here in St. John's. But every so often I'll actually buy a book like that, and that's one I actually haven't read, and I will read it. Now let's jump right into the graphic literature, because that's what this program's about. First off here, Clyde fans, look, check this out. I love attention to detail like that. The beautiful die cut. But Clyde fans definitely something any fan of the graphic literature should have in their collection. Seth is a Canadian treasure, and people should appreciate him more. I know he has a lot of fans like myself, but yeah, go out and buy this. But like I say, I love his design sense, everything about it. Very, very well done. He it's actually worth. And look, even stuff like this with the slipcase. Look at that inside. Even the inside has a covering. A lot of times, most slipcases is just bland inside. Seth goes, and the outside slipcase. Seth goes that extra mile. He was actually went to Ontario College right at the same time I did. I can remember him walking around there. He had white hair, I think it was then. Anyways, let's move on to someone else I know too. Jason Lutz, who I met, did an art exhibition on comics and war, and he was one of the exhibitors along with myself and my friend, and I got to meet him. Had a grand chat with him. Went to a party after. And very nice guy. But this is one of these graphic novels now that I'm going to have to sit down because I really got into it. But I found it, if I only read it a little bit at a time, I had to go back and sort of restart again. So I've restarted. I'm just going to read the whole thing all the way through. It's I'm loving what I got read so far, and well worth the time and effort. So go out and get yourself one of those. Okay. Sip of the tea, and on we go. Harrow County, Volume 4. This is one of those cases where this is definitely going to go into the even up there with the Berlin and Clyde fans in terms of wanting to put them to the top of the reading stack, where I will, because a lot of times when they get to the top, as I get more and more into it, a lot of times I'll take it, I'll just zip and I'll read it right through and just finish it off. And this, of course, great series. I'm loving Harrow County. You should get out and get that. And of course, what reading stack wouldn't be complete without a little bit of fun, and that's what a little Lulu from John Stanley is. This is a great book from a collection from D&Q, Drawn and Quarterly, one of the premier comic book companies in the world, I think. And they're Canadian. Anyway, great collection. Like, I used to read these when I was a kid, and there was, I don't know, there was just something neat. It was just a good comic. Just a plain good old comic. Speaking of plain good old comics, let's get into the Walt Disney comics. It's funny because the Disney works. They're just using Disney characters. It's more about the artists, as I discovered. Most of what I learned about the Duck World and the Disney strips for Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck and all them comes from my good friend Sam Johnson. He's actually shepherded me slowly through all the ins and outs of the Duck universe, and who the good artists are, who the bad artists are, and of course this is called Colonel Parks, which of course, as everyone knows, is one of the good ones. And the great thing about these is it's, who cares that they're duck stories or whatever. The thing about these is this is just darn good comics. The stories are highly imaginative, because a lot of times Disney would just leave the people to go on about their ways. They were more interested in making movies and everything like that. So a lot of times, it seemed that a lot of these guys had a lot of artistic freedom. And especially so from what I've read of the European comics and this is part of the Disney Master series. So and once again, these are the ones too. Sam will say, I'll say to him, "What's this like? Oh, this is good. What's this like? Oh, this is bad." He'll tell you which he thinks are the good and bad things and all that. But now I gotta collect them all because I'm just afflicted that way. Let's see. Oh, here's a delightful addition to it, and this comes from my good buddy online and member of my group, Jim Simon. This is a beautiful copy, the hardcover copy of the Kid Cowboys of Boys Ranch. I've been looking for this for a long time and got to chatting with Jim Simon on my page about something one time, and somehow we got into talk about that, and he said, "Well, I have copies if you want to buy one," and he had the Fighting American too. He had a couple of copies, and so he sold them to me, which was kind of cool because this book was once owned by Joe Simon himself. So yeah, I think I do believe I even have a oh yeah. I even printed off a copy of the receipt from buying it and it even has Simon Comics at Yahoo, SimonComics.com there. A little bit of provenance, but anyway, so thanks, Jim. You made one of my collecting dreams come true because I couldn't find this. I've been looking for it for years. Same with the Fighting American one too. Now, speaking of anthropomorphized characters and all that, my favorite funny animal comic these days, well, for the past few decades, has been Stan Sakai's Usagi Yojimbo. Now, this is volume 8 of the fabulous series, the Usagi Yojimbo saga from Dark Horse, and this is an amazing collection. I got all 8, well there's 9 books too, because there's the Legends edition, I think it was, yeah, and because I'd read these when I was younger and all that, and when I heard that Dark Horse, well not only Dark Horse, I also have the Fantagraphics set collection too. When I heard they were putting it out, I was just like, oh, I gotta get these for sure. And what a beautiful job that the Dark Horse did on it. But what I like about this and these comics I really like getting is this is a signed and numbered edition. So there's only 1,500 of these out there, and this is edition 543. So that's not a lot of them. As a matter of fact, the first volume, my buddy Jason Conway, who owns the store, he found he had a copy of volume 1, hardcover copy, and he sold it online, and he was surprised. He got, I think, he got an awful lot of money for it. I won't spill the beans. Let's see, and now, of course, for the light reading, and I'm reading this and volume 2 of it at the same time, but I just brought in, I have one here, and it, of course, is the Savage Sword of Conan. Doon, 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 doon. Nothing like a good bit of savage swording for entertainment. And this, of course, Savage Sword of Conan was the black and white edition of Conan during the 70s. This was ran in magazine form, so it could be a little bit more gory and a little bit more sexy than the normal Conan books. Speaking of the magazines, from the 70s comes this beautiful little thing here, and this actually has the Tales of the Zombie in it. So this is one of the Marvel magazines, the Curtis magazines they used to call them. Now it does have a lot of other stuff mixed in here with it, but it has a lot of the Hunt of Horror. It has a lot of the Hunt of Horrors in here too. So it has. This is what I like about some of these collections, is getting some of the Marvel magazines. I wish they'd print even more of them. So this one definitely worth buying too. And this is still one of my favorites. Emma, still reading it too. This is the Bronze Age House of Mystery Omnibus Volume 1. What I love about these and all the rest of them is the art in these are fabulous. Your Alex Ninos, your Jeff Jones, your Neil Adams. This is where a lot of people started in the 70s, made their bones were in the mystery mags, which were kind of fun and inventive. Of course, the Immortal Hulk, and as a matter of fact, I think I finished this. Come to think about think of it. Yeah. You know, this got to go into to the red pile. So this is actually finished. But anyway, still a good book. Same here with the House of X. That's red. That goes onto into the pile there. Nancy, I'm still reading that. That, of course, a good companion with your little Lulu and the like. This is by Olivia James, and this is the new one out, and it's actually pretty good. I really like it. It's a neat modern interpretation of an old classic, and it's hard to do that sometimes. This is one actually. This is going up to the top of the stack too. You can see the trouble I have already. This, of course, Kill or Be Killed, and you gotta read this one. This one's a killer. Oh yeah, and this one, Little Bird. This was one of a friend of mine, Dave Coffin, recommended to me, and I like it. There's something Moby-esque to it, and it's worth getting. So yeah, I would recommend it. And ooh, here we go. Here's two more recent ones too. You can see the wide range. Grant Morrison's Green Lantern. About halfway through that, and then of course from Jeff Johns and Gary Frank comes Doomsday Clock, which everyone seems to have gone insane over, and Volume 2 will be out soon, and that's when I'll really bite into that. But I've been liking it so far. I gotta admit, there is something kind of neat about it. But of course, had to have something from the Mignolaverse, and I have here BPRD Hell on Earth Volume 2. Doom 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 doom. So yeah, still making my way. I will read every single one of these because these I do love. It's I love everything I read, but I mean the Mignolaverse is just this is kind of like Usagi and some of the other ones, which are really sort of old legacy things. Fandom, or it's things that I've loved for a long time, and I continue to read. All right. Whew. Yeah, it was funny. It was 4 days until I actually talked to someone face to face. It was kind of spooky. But I actually had my granddaughter Sophia. She, God bless her little heart, she gave me a call, and we played Roblox for a couple of afternoons there too. Spent 2 or 3 hours at least, and had a blast. So there's some good things to being snowed in. Anyway, of course, gotta have something from Brubaker, and this one, well, besides the Kill or Be Killed, this is the only one actually that I can think of. No, there's 2 recent ones too. I gotta read through those. They're the only ones I haven't read. But I love Brubaker, so it's I don't know. I find sometimes when I've read books that I feel almost disappointed or a little bit depressed when I get to the end of it. It kind of makes me sad and makes me wish, oh God, I wish I could wipe my memory and reread that book again. It was so cool. I don't know if you ever had that bizarre inclination. And last but seemingly not least, of course, is got to have something from the Library of American Comics, because if you're snowed in and you want some light reading, pick one of the great comic strips out there and have a read, because you can neat thing about these, you can read them pretty quick once you get going at a good pace. And Dick Tracy, of course, and this one's fortunately coming to an end, so I will one of these days become one of the people who've read every single one of them, and I love it. So well worth getting. Anyway, well, that's it. Thanks for inviting me into your homes here on this snowy day, at least out on this part of the North America. And so, of course, there won't be a show this Friday. We're hoping to shoot the Thursday comics sometime this week, maybe Sunday for next week, because of course Dennis lives on the other side of town, but it's just been the city. Everything has been thrown up into the airs, including that. So anyway, we'll see you next week from in the Library of Graphic Literature, and love you all. Keep on reading. Oh my God! Oh, it's kablam! He's gone. Okay, turn off the camera.